right. Good morning. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the last day of virtual face-to-face programming. Thank you so much for being here. I'm going to go ahead and get us started. All right. This session, everyone, welcome, is Dramaturgy and Design, how one can teach dramaturgy through design. And it is, like I said, the second to last virtual session for Face2Face 2024. We're thrilled that you can join us. My name is Kinsey Keck. I use she, her pronouns. I am a white woman with brown hair. It goes just a little bit past my shoulders. I'm wearing some large, round, wire-framed glasses and a black t-shirt. And my background is blurred. And I'm also the programs director here at the New York City Arts and Education Roundtable. For those who don't know, the Roundtable is a grassroots service organization that works to improve and advance the state of arts education through professional development workshops, advocacy, and online resources and platforms to connect the arts education field. Although we are currently meeting this morning again via Zoom, the Roundtable would like to acknowledge that we work and live on unceded lands. So Mannahatta, or the place also known as New York City, exists on the contemporary and ancestral homelands of the Canarsie, Munsee Lenape, and Wappinger people. These sovereign nations and communities are still thriving here, and we continue to occupy their lands. So we would like to give a moment of respect to them, as well as to the Black and immigrant communities who built the city that we know today. As we recognize that all of our pasts, presents, and futures are intertwined, we would like to lift up some contemporary Indigenous arts organizations that we can all support and learn from. I just popped those in the chat if you haven't already. Grab those links. Get interested in these organizations, support them with donations if you can. And I invite you to do more research on your own area, what orgs you might be able to support there. And please always feel free to share and uplift in the chat any organizations that you would like to highlight. Thank you. All right, and I can't do this introduction without acknowledging and thanking our incredible Face2Face 2024 sponsors. They are the reason that we are able to do this. We're so grateful to them. Specifically, today's session is brought to you by the sponsors here on the screen. So I'd like to thank Blick Art Materials, TheaterWorks USA, and then a partnership between Change Arts and Develop for Good. If you'd like to learn any more about our sponsors, they are on our Face2Face website under the sponsors tab, and you'll be hearing a lot more about them throughout the conference if you'll be joining us in person next week. Okay, last few reminders. If you have trouble with Zoom, please feel free to send me, Kinsey, a direct message. I am here to help. Please remember to stay on mute unless you're the person speaking so we can hear our presenters and folks clearly. We encourage you to use the chat to ask questions and interact with folks on the call. I will be keeping an eye on that and saving your questions for later. I also want to note that this meeting includes live ASL interpretation, as well as automatic closed captions via Zoom. To activate your captions, you'll find captions either on your toolbar or under the More button on your toolbar, and click Show Captions, and you'll have them on your screen. And last, this session is being recorded. It will be uploaded to the Roundtable's YouTube page and shared as a link with you all in a follow-up email from me by the end of the conference. I'll try to get it out to you all earlier, but it may take a moment. But you will receive that. All the links to all of the recordings and resources will be coming your way soon. And I think that is it for me. So now it's my pleasure to bring on our presenter for this morning's session. Everyone, please join me in welcoming Sarah Lee Chic. Sarah is an instructor at the college level and will introduce herself further. Welcome, Sarah.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate being here. And as Kinsey said, my name is Sarah Lee Chic. In case if you need a description as to what I look like, that I have black hair with red highlights, and I'm wearing a white collared shirt, and over it a a gray sweater, and my background is a off-white wall, just in case that is helpful. And just a little bit more about myself before we dive right in, that in college I studied theater. I focused on dramaturgy. My first graduate degree, I did educational theater at NYU. And then my second graduate degree, I did an MFA in theater design. So a lot of my research interests relate to the combination of dramaturgy and exploring script analysis through theater design. I love presenting this kind of work because a lot of people feel uncomfortable with theater design, costumes, lighting, set, and sound. So I like making this feel more accessible to people. And the last worthwhile thing to note is that I'm an instructor at Hudson County Community College in Jersey, but I'm also an adjunct instructor at several other colleges, including the CUNY system. So that is enough about me for the moment. So I would like to start with a question to you all that you can feel free to do the thumbs up reaction or the hand up reaction. Either of those are fine. How many of you are comfortable with theater design? Okay, there's definitely a few people that feel comfortable with theater design, and one person saying in the chat they like it, so that's always a good start. How many of you feel comfortable teaching theater design to students of any age level? All right, so there's a few people that are comfortable, and then there's a few people that are not comfortable. Great. So, for those of you that are comfortable, this is another approach that you can use. For those of you that are not comfortable, this is something that you can consider adapting and using for your own students in the future. So, the thing that I will be sharing momentarily is a play that is literally one PDF page long as a starting place, that it is called Roll Out the Red Carpet, and it's a part of 365 plays slash 365 days by Susan Laurie Parks. And once I share my screen, you will have at least a few minutes to read it. But if you need more time, then we can, of course, I can, of course, give you more time. And as you read it, afterwards, one thing I would like is for you to be able to point out any visual references that you notice in the play. Does that sound good? All right, there's a few thumbs ups. All right. All right, so if you also need me to make this bigger, let me know, but this is the entire play. So I'll start with saying 5 minutes to read this, but if anybody needs more time, then you can absolutely take that time. And I'm also still here if you have any questions. So I will stop talking so you can feel free to read.
Sarah, if you could, would you mind making it just zooming in a little bit if you can?
Yeah, I should be able to do that. That's fine.
Thank you.
No problem. All right, there's a few thumbs ups. So I'll move forward with the next part of this. But if you need additional time, that is perfectly okay. This is not going anywhere at the moment. My first question to you guys, what are visual references that you've noticed in the play? This can be related to costumes, sets, lights, anything that you notice at all. There are no wrong answers. Military uniforms, definitely a good start. Amended waistband, red carpet, gold star. The uniform. Great, we're definitely getting in some good answers. What about what you think might be the case for lighting? Do you think there may be any tips in here that might help with how the lights might look? Holiday, that's interesting. Something special is happening, maybe some spotlights left over. Interesting. So, one other thing to be aware of is that what they're talking as well about how hot it is. So, when things are warmer, then the lights tend to be a little bit more yellow or a little bit more amber when things are warmer as well. So, yes, amber, just like in the chat. So, thank you. So, that's also things that you could take into consideration, that even using the five senses, such as touch, feel, those are things that can even impact as well, right? So, with that in mind, is there anything else that you guys notice? It's okay if there isn't. Good chat answers so far. All right. So, with the things that we've covered, we're definitely at a great start. There are other things. Yes, military situation. Wonderful. So, there are other more specific things that you can consider. That for Birdie, the waistband in the uniform is cutting into her, so that would imply that it'll have a tighter appearance, right? So that can be a pretty big visualization. And then also some specifics when it comes to things related to fabric. That carpeting has a very specific look to it. The elastic tends to be very stretchy, and that tends to have a very specific look to it. So those are things that you can consider, and even in the matters of color, right? That with the elastic, a lot of elastic tends to be white in color. So there's things like that that you can consider as well. So I'll ask another question now. What time of year do you think this is? I want to start with something that's relatively easy. Depends on where this is taking place. What country or part of the world? Summer. We can take a step back and we can start with, where do you think this is taking place? Since it doesn't say that in the play, then you can determine just based on what you see see what you think it is and why. There can't be any wrong answers here. Summer in America after the Vietnam War. What's really great about that answer is that it notes time, it notes a place, it notes weather, that it notes a lot of different things. The way it's written, I imagine U.S. Southern accents, great. With Dolly and Birdie, my immediate thought was summer in the South, great. Down South, wonderful. And places like the South can also very much impact, uh, it can very much impact weather as well, because when we think of the holidays, we do tend to think about December. But if it's the South, then that would help make it feel warmer. Weather, cool, since she wears a jacket. That is a fair interpretation, right? That the reason it's hot could be for several reasons. That it could be that she is, uh, it could be that they're indoors, right? That could be that they're also required to wear the military jackets due to it being part of their uniform. Heat due to uniforms and labor, great. So just thinking more on that script analysis aspect, is there anything else that you can think of in the matters of time, in the matters of place, anything else that can help give you any visual references as to where this play may take place? Time period is also acceptable, like the person that said after the Vietnam War. Might be set in Iraq or Afghanistan. Great. The two characters each have their own house. That's great to note because that can very much influence who these characters are as people, right? Lovely. So, one really great thing about this script in particular is that it doesn't say what time it takes place or where it takes place. So, saying after the Vietnam War, which was in the 1970s, or if you're considering Afghanistan, Iraq, my initial thought hearing that was in the mid 2000s after 9/11 occurred, but there are also other circumstances that can be the case. Washington, D.C., military salute, full out, long carpet rollout. Lovely. That really you can consider any time period or any location for this play. Although one hint is that Dolly and Birdie likely imply a different time period, but as artists, we can always make the justification that that's just a choice in the matters of the play, right? That there's always the possibility that this is there for a specific reason. So the moat makes me think it's the future when people are fortifying their homes. Ooh, I like that. So, yeah, there's always a unique perspective. You can absolutely say, I think this takes place in the future, right? Because it doesn't make that note in the play. All right. Lovely, lovely answers. So the next thing that we're going to be doing is, now that you have some ideas, and if you need the list of answers that you guys provided, that Kinsley has that list. So if you need us to shift what we're sharing screen wise, definitely let me know. And at this point, you can start on your own devices doing research related to the theme, any visuals and audio. I would recommend starting with one design area, such as, oh, I want to see what costumes look like in the time and place that I'm considering. So you'd be able to look up what military costumes were worn in that time, right? Because military costumes in the 70s were definitely different than military costumes today, right? And when in America, when they first started letting women into the military, that they had to wear skirts. So there's a lot of different things that you can consider and play with. So start with picking what design area that you would want to focus on. And then you could do research related to what you think relates to that time period, particularly with sets or costumes, but you can consider lighting as well for this. One important thing to be aware of as well is thinking about race and color theory, especially with costumes. So that way it's a matter of being mindful to who you imagine would be wearing the clothes, because things are going to look different on different skin tones. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just a matter of being considerate in connection to what may look flattering on different skin tones. So that's a worthwhile thing to keep in mind as well. And anything that's not in the play, as you do research, you can just imagine. Like in the matters of, if you wanted to explore sets, that what you think this world looks like. Do you think it's indoors or outdoors? Those are things that you can absolutely come up with on your own. So I will give you guys at least 10 minutes to be able to select what you want to focus on, finding research images, etc. So that way you can start thinking about your own creative design ideas. If you need more time, we can expand it. If you need less time, we can cut that sooner. So just let me know what is best for you. And if you want the play up here during that time, I can keep it up just in case, if it's helpful as inspiration for you. And of course, if you have questions, I am here as well. One other thing to note that also might be helpful is if you can find several images of what it is you've chosen to explore. That way you have different perspectives of what people wore at the time, what what the environment may look like, etc. Then that's something that would be helpful as well. With my students in high school or college level, I typically try to say to find at least 5 images if possible. But, and when it comes to costumes, that would be per character. But since they're mostly wearing the same thing, 5 images as a whole for you guys is fine. But it also depends on how you feel about your research process so far. It's not a set rule. If you only find 3 images, that's fine. So you'll still have 2 or 3 more minutes to do this unless anybody needs extra time. But if it's possible for you to do this, one thing I would recommend is being able to put your images in a document of some kind, such as a, a Microsoft Word document or a PowerPoint or a Google document, whatever it is you have. It's not something that will be required for this session, of course, but that's something that may be helpful. So that way you can keep track of all of your wonderful images in one location. All right, with several thumbs ups, then we will start with going to the next part of this, which I'm going to stop sharing my screen for, because this is an opportunity that if you want to, you can share your screens if you're comfortable with showing what research you have found and sharing why these are your thoughts, that this would be a wonderful time for you to be able to do that. So is anyone comfortable with sharing what they found and want to talk about it?
I see Madeline's hand up.
Lovely. Then
Madeline, feel free to come off of mute. You should be able to share your screen, but if you can't, there we go.
Okay, can you hear me?
yes.
Okay, so I started off just looking for Army uniforms of a non-officer. And they were all camouflage. I was thinking maybe not camouflage because it doesn't sound like they're in combat now. Uh, and I liked this different directional look. And I liked these colors of this person bending over. And I liked the high neck of this middle person and the hairdos. But then I thought, maybe this is the future. I mentioned that because of digging moats around your house. Why would you do that? So I started to look for futurist, sort of sci-fi uniforms, and I didn't get very far yet. But that is what I came up with.
This is wonderful. Thank you. Especially in 10 minutes. So, if it's something you wanted to continue even beyond this session, or as we move on to the next part of this, another thing you can consider is, what does the waistband look like? That's another thing that you can consider, the elastic waistband. But even aside from that, lovely work. Thank you. Is there anybody else that's comfortable with sharing their work so far? It's okay. If you're not comfortable, I'm not going to force anybody, because being creative, even in the research process, is a very personal experience, right? So I want to make sure that every single one of you is comfortable, as opposed to me being forceful, like, you share it now. So wherever you are at, it is completely fine. So if you need more time to research, that's entirely fine. The next thing we're doing for people that are ready to move on is that between your ideas with the scripts, your your research, to be able to create a drawing as to what you think this world looks like, whether through costumes, sets, etc. So we can give at least 20 minutes for this, at if there's anybody that needs the extra time to draw. And I'll note right now that this is not about being good or being bad with drawing. It's all about playing and exploring and just seeing what your ideas are on paper. So this would be a good time for you to start the drawing adventure in whatever way that is comfortable for you. So we're 10 minutes through the 20 minutes that I initially provided. As I said, if we end up needing more than the last 10 minutes, we absolutely have that time. And if you are already done or you finish before the remaining 10 minutes, then you can feel free to start doing research on another design element. Something that's a little harder, but still entirely possible, is doing lighting and thinking about what does the lights look like? If they're outside, where is the sun? Which would definitely be an impact as to where light would shine from, right? Along with things like what time of day it is, weather, etc. Or if you wanted to go in a different direction and explore sound, one thing to keep in mind as they're unrolling a carpet, that would be a live sound, right? But if you wanted to think about what does this world sound like, what are the natural sounds that may occur, that's something you can consider doing research on as well, if that's the direction you wanted to go in. Just like if you were in a park, you would likely hear things like children playing, possibly an ice cream truck, any natural sounds that may occur. You can consider that for this play as well, as to what are some of the natural sounds you may hear in this environment. None of that is a requirement, of course, but that is something you can consider if you have the extra time and you want to explore those things. So, just from the feedback that I've received related to time so far, and even what I haven't received so far, why don't we take a few more minutes so that way you can take your ideas, finish out what you have at hand. You can feel free to either write in the chat when you're done, or you can give a thumbs up, raise your hand, whatever it is. And for the people that came in a bit later, wherever you are in your process, whether it's research related or what, it is completely fine. In fact, the dramaturgy aspect of this, a lot of it connects to the research itself. And there are some theater designers that they don't draw their ideas, that they do just mainly provide research images. So there is nothing wrong with stopping there for those of you that came a little bit later. So can you explain what is theater design more than just designing for stage and performance purposes? What international links can be provided with more information about this field? So I admit I don't have links on hand, but I can do that research for you later today and send them off to Kinsley. But utilizing theater design for dance is something that's very common in itself. The easiest example is costumes, of figuring out what it is that a dancer would be wearing and why. And also determining what it is for the dance piece, that if there's a set or a location in the world that you're building for your dance piece, that you can consider lighting in that way of, okay, this is taking place at night, so maybe we want to have more blue lights or something of that nature. So the one thing I would say is, yeah, yes, context is always a key thing, especially since going back to theater before I connect it to dance. I personally consider theater a super art form because you have the literary aspects, like with reading a play. You have the performance aspects of actors, dancers, right? And the thing that we're exploring at this moment very much is the visual aspects of costumes, sets, lights, and sound would be auditory if any of you are imagining what the sound in the world of this play is. But the visual aspects for dance, that it would just come down to a little bit more determining on their own as to what the world of the dance piece looks like and why. So there's not really the literary component. So that would be the primary difference between the two. Other than that, everything else is completely transferable. And okay, so I am going to stop sharing my screen. I hope that's okay with everybody. Because with our 20 minutes left, I would like to start with asking, is anybody comfortable with sharing what they have ended up with at this point, what they drew? Or even if they're not comfortable sharing what they drew, going back to research. Is there anybody comfortable enough to share where they're at this point in the process?
Okay, I'll share. This is I just asked the question. So I'm going to share my picture because I like drawing. And this is, so one side is war and the other side is peace. And there's, as you were mentioning, the putting on with the clothes. This is in the play was now I can't remember the word, but this connects. And so this in the middle is the unity line. So we need unity to end wars, oneness of humanity. So yeah, and then these are my notes on your questions, analyzation questions on the play, and that was very inspiring on a program that I have. So thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you so much. That was such a wonderful drawing. I really love your creativity that went into that. And you're welcome. And Alberto mentioned in the chat that they would like to share some sound. So I would absolutely love to hear your sound. I will mute myself so that way we can hear your sound. I love it. Thank you. Yeah, with different types of birds, with everything else you provided, it really gives me a better idea as to what environment you feel this world is. Thank you. And yes, Madeline, you can absolutely share your set. Go for it.
Well, I'm not sure how to get it. I've got like a webcam. I'm not sure you're going to be able to see this.
No, you're good. We have you pinned so that way you're larger on the screen.
Um, let's see if I can turn the light on. Well, I'll tell you what it is. If I can turn this light on.
I mean, if it helps, we were able to see it.
Okay.
So if anything, you could even move it slightly back so we could see the full picture.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Okay, there we are. So I imagine it's America, and it's an indoor scene, and somebody's going to be speaking at this dais where my finger is, with the big American thing behind it, and portraits of former generals on the wall as whoever it is marches in. And these two women, I presume are women, unrolling the carpet in front of all this rigmarole.
I love it. Thank you. And especially having the podium at the end, it makes the rug feel even more, or the carpet feel even more like there's more to roll, that we see a goal, but it feels impossible that they'll get there. And yes, Kinsley, go for it.
All right. I went a little different direction than some folks. And
That's fine.
it's so funny because at first I questioned it and I was like, no, let me change. But then I kind of wanted to lean into it. So I was imagining a more like dystopian type future, because although our characters have like gained weight and we know they're eating and things, it doesn't sound like there's actually much peacetime in the middle of the wartime. So these are some of the costume inspirations that I saved. And I was thinking more like they're rolling this out, but things are kind of destroyed around them. So these are some research pictures that I did, and then I used an AI to generate images, which I've never used before, which was very surprising and cool. So it came up with these two images for kind of the setting that I thought was really interesting and cool, and I loved the colors, and I thought it went well with the costume images that I had pulled. So there you go.
That is really cool. You gave me an idea to think about that I haven't considered yet. With AI being such a big topic, I do need to consider as a designer what that means for my students and their work. Good things to think about for the summer and fall terms. So thank you. Even beyond the educator part of my brain, I love it. That is a really unique premise, and there is no such thing as a right or wrong. It's your creative vision. And Antonia, go for it.
I think I wanted to share the screen as well. I guess let's see if I can do it. If not, I'll just kind of talk you through it. Don't worry about it.
You should be able to screen share.
Okay, so I wanted to do it from my okay. Let me find where could I do it from? Where's files and folders? I don't know. I'm not gonna stress. I can't find it. I can't find how to do it. So Burley will have on the camouflage because they're out. It's summertime. It's like 2 o'clock. It's in the US, maybe Washington. But here it is. I'm doing the digital media style where my backdrop will be there at the airport. And so the actual on the screen will have an airplane and the red carpet already out. And so they're on the stage and you can see them on the stage. They're going to continue the red carpet on the stage. So Burley will have on, let me see, because they both have on the military hats this summer, camouflage, yeah, Dolly has the t-shirt and the camouflage pants, but Burley has her jacket on with here. Yeah, Burley has her jacket on because she's worried about her weight. And that's why she's suffering so hard in the heat. But yeah, the backdrop will kind of create the synergy of them being outside in the airport at the private jet, you know, um area where like maybe the Pope will come down on the red carpet and then they will, poof him off to somewhere special. But they're preparing the red carpet, so yeah.
I love it. I love the details that you provided in your drawing as well. And I am sure, while you weren't able to share your screen for the research, I am sure that your research helped inspire your ideas. So thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you too.
So, with the 10 minutes that we have left, the one thing I want to say is you can adjust this for any play at just about any age level. I have heard educators doing similar things as with kids as young as 9 and 10. So you can feel free to decide what it is that's best for you and your students and why, with how you adjust it in the future. And you can feel free to take my introductory process with you wherever you were to go with it from a design standpoint. And even in the matters of the research and the drawing, that there are some designers that stop at the dramaturgical research, the visual images you guys found, and they just say, I'm thinking these colors with this shape, or for costume, something like this jacket. That you can do that as well. I've interned when I was doing my MFA. I've interned under Broadway designers that would provide surprisingly little when they would present their ideas to a director and other designers. So you can adjust this for people that feel they're not good at drawing or whatever you would like to make sure people are comfortable. So that is my thing. I would love to hear more about reflections along with questions, and there's already one in the chat. How about having students do collages of their ideas instead of drawing? So, actually, when I do my creative research, I actually do typically do it in the form of a collage. So you do have the right instincts. I would say it depends on what's best for your students. That some students would prefer doing a collage of their research images as opposed to drawing. That's absolutely an appropriate idea. So thank you for sharing that. Anything else that anybody would like to reflect on? Have any questions? I'm trying to wait the extra minute in case if anybody's writing in the chat. Similar to storyboards? Oh, that is an interesting question. I think it depends on how you were to approach it. I think when it comes to like middle school students, as an example, that going with a storyboard process is completely fine. And then for older students, like high school and college, it would likely very much focus on just that one design element. If we were to really get nitpicky, thinking about measurements and whatnot would come into play as well. But that is something that you don't need to stress as much in this case. So it depends on how you were to approach it. Thank you, Elizabeth, for that question. How long will a dramaturg stay on a project? Just the consultation or the full play? Ooh, that's a wonderful question. So I'm going to answer that in two parts, if that's okay. So I'm very much a believer that A, dramaturgy is vital for the production process. B, it's a wonderful thing for anybody in theater in particular to explore. So you got to experience more as to what it's like from the design process. And you wanted to make sure that was said first. Now, in connection to the actual answer, it depends on the show. So there are new play dramaturgs that they focus on the storytelling of the play and mostly work with the playwright for figuring out things like, is the play clear? Is it consistent? A lot of the storytelling aspects of things. And then there are production dramaturgs that will do similar research that you guys have done now, just not necessarily visual, with themes and whatnot. And oftentimes they will be around for the full production from start to opening night. I know I over answered that question, but I figure over is better than under. Any other questions, thoughts?
I ask, yeah, I like to ask that question, yeah, to kind of restate that for me. So there are two types of dramateurs. You're mentioning the one that's on as a production help and is one that's on with the writer or with the, yeah, I'm kind of confused because do you ask for them in like different terms? Do you like I'm seeking a production dramaturg, or am I seeking a, a dramaturg to work with the writer? I'm confused. Like, is there two different titles? Because you want to be clear of what you're looking for. You don't want to, ask for a dramaturg and then that dramaturg is one that pretty much consults and just want to come in and give you some ideas and leave. So really want to get that pretty much, intact.
Yeah, that's an entirely fair question. So usually when people are looking for a dramaturg, they're usually looking for a production dramaturg, which is the person that would do the research to make sure that things are accurate and consistent when it comes to time period, themes within the script, etc. Usually that's what somebody is looking for, but there is such a thing as a new play dramaturg that's less in connection to what we've done today, that their job is very much helping a playwright before the production process starts, and they may not even have a show coming up. That they're more there to help the playwright from that script analysis aspect of things to be able to help the playwright. So for a production, if you're looking for a dramaturg, most cases you'll want a production dramaturg. from my experience doing dramaturgy before delving into design, I usually did production dramaturgy, but I do have experience in both of those worlds. So I hope that was helpful and clarified things a little bit more.
Yeah, you really did. Now also, will the dramaturg clash with the props person?
No.
Set people, or do they tell the set people what's like, if there's some uh like when the set people are putting out the set, they can say, hey, this doesn't actually fit with that time frame. You might need something. Does that have any effect on the setting and the set designers or the props people?
I mean, the short answer is no, because it's about inspiration. That you can say for a play that we're focusing on this time period, and there are people that mesh different ideas together for a production, right? So it's really more about, in that case, it's really more about clarity. Will it make sense to an audience in connection to sets, lights, costumes, and sound? So as long as things are making sense, everything's flowing nicely, there shouldn't be any real disagreements there. I do also know we're at 11:30, so I don't know if people are bouncing to other uh, sessions. I'm happy to stay on longer if needed, but I also don't want to break any potential rules. So,
I
Kinsley.
do have I do have one more question. I'm sorry because I am doing the play. But is it important that the dramaturg be a historian too? That's not important, right?
Uh, New dramaturgs can take that as they go with it, that they can do that research in history. They don't necessarily have to be official historians with a history background.
Oh, thank you.
You're
I
welcome.
appreciate you.
You're welcome. And I'm trying to read the things in the chat. Uh, and I am so glad to hear that connection of dramaturgy and choreography as well. You're welcome, Kyle. If anybody still has questions, I'm 100% happy to answer them. Or Kinsley can pass off my email. That's fine too. But you are, I guess, free to go would be the proper term for it. Or I'll pass it off to Kinsley for whatever else. So thank you guys. It's been wonderful to see your work and hear your thoughts.
This has been really, really fun, Sarah. Thank you so much for walking us through this. I feel like I have so many ideas buzzing around, and it seems like, as you can see in the chat, a lot of folks really enjoyed this. So thank you so much for being here and for your time. Folks, we have one more face-to-face session later today at 4 p.m. It's in a totally different direction. That is going to be, let's see, collaborative budget management. So slightly different than what we were up to this morning, but if it sounds like it's good for you, please join us there. The schedule for the conference is in the chat. And yeah, just one more thank you to you, Sarah. We really appreciate it. I'll be sharing resources and things with folks via email by probably next week. And have a lovely rest of your day.
Thank you. You too. And thank you for making my first face-to-face presentation so lovely. I very much enjoyed this experience as well. So
Awesome.
thank you all.
Let's hear it. All right. See you all soon, everyone. Have a good one.